What's up, y'all? And welcome back to Horror Story Junkie. Man, it feels so good to be here for episode 2. The love we got from the first drop was wild, and if you're back for more, you're officially part of the Junkie fam now. Episode 1 really set the tone with those creepy night shift stories, and I've gotta say, the messages we got afterward, yeah. Turns out a lot of y'all have seen some things. That's honestly what makes this podcast so dope to do. It's not just about scary stories, it's about knowing you're not the only one who's experienced some unexplainable stuff. Like, I've had people DM me about everything from stalkers to doppelgangers to haunted cabins. It's real out there. So grab a snack, maybe turn on an extra light or two, and settle in, because we've got some stories tonight that'll mess with your brain a little. And today, I've got a brand new guest with me, Nate. We've been talking off mic, and let me just say, this dude's been through it.
Yeah, man. I wasn't sure if this counted as a horror story or just bad luck. But once I told a few people, they were like, dude, you need to tell someone who won't think you're crazy.
That's literally why this podcast exists. No judgment, just shared paranoia. So let's tell the people where you're from and what went down. He goes by Nate. My guy is from Georgia, and he and his fiancée had been hunting for a rental for months. They were priced out of Atlanta and wanted someplace quieter, slower paced. When they found this little house on the edge of town, cheap rent, huge yard, even a garden box in the back, they jumped on it. The listing said recently renovated, but you could tell it had a lot of history. Like the walls held on to stuff. Still, they were excited. First place together, new start. It wasn't until the second night in that they started hearing things beneath the floorboards. Just moved into a new rental with his girl. I'll let him take it from here.
Appreciate it, D. And yeah, I was 100% that guy. We move into this older place just outside Macon. Real cute from the outside, wrap-around porch, big backyard. But from the first week, we start hearing these sounds from the crawlspace under the house. Like something moving. Not constant, but random scratching, shuffling. You could feel it in the floors sometimes. My fiance's like, you better go check that out. I'm thinking it's just a possum or raccoon, no biggie. So one afternoon, I open up the little crawl hatch on the side of the house, get a flashlight, and slide in. I'm expecting to scare off an animal, but instead, there's nothing there, except this little pile of torn fabric and these tiny bones, like bird bones, or maybe squirrel.
Nah, man. Anytime bones are involved, that's an automatic nope.
Right? I back out, patch up the opening, and figure that's that. But the next night, we hear it again, and this time, it sounds bigger. Like dragging sounds, not scratching. I'm lying in bed staring at the ceiling, listening to this thing just moving below us. So the next day I go all out. I set up a little phone camera on a tripod and slide it halfway into the crawl space overnight. I check the footage in the morning, and for a while, it's just dark. Just silence. And then around 3:14 a.m., something crawls past the lens. Not fast, slow, pale arms, skinny, no fur, just limbs.
Oh, hell no.
Dude. I dropped my phone, I was shaking so bad. I showed my girl and she was like, we're moving. No hesitation. We called animal control, and when the guy showed up, he looked like he'd seen everything. Grizzled, thick gloves, utility belt full of traps. I explained what we'd seen on the footage, and he didn't laugh. Just nodded and said, let's take a look. He spent almost 3 hours under that house, crawling through the dirt with a flashlight and some kind of motion detector. At one point, he came out and asked if anyone else had access to the crawl space, like a past tenant or handyman. I said no. When he came back up for good, his face was pale. All he said was, We didn't find anything living under there, but there's scratch marks along the foundation, from the inside. They came out the next day, spent hours under there, came back up and said, "We didn't find anything living under there, but there's scratch marks along the foundation, from the inside." We moved out that weekend.
That's the kind of story that makes you rip up your floorboards, man. I hate it. I love it. I hate it again.
Honestly, man, that story had layers. I went from maybe it's just a possum to burn the house down in under 5 minutes.
Right? Like it's always the crawl space. Attics and basements get too much credit, but crawl spaces are just vibes and death. All right, Nate, that was fire. Thank you for reliving that trauma for us. But yo, you told me before we hit record that this wasn't even the only weird thing you've been through. You said something about a hotel?
Oh man. Yeah. Okay. So this happened back when I was working late shifts at a gas station just off I-75 in Georgia. It was one of those 24-hour spots, fluorescent lights, security cameras that barely worked, and maybe 2 customers an hour after midnight. Anyway, it's around 2:45 in the morning. I'm half asleep behind the counter sipping stale coffee when this guy walks in. Tall, heavy coat even though it's warm out. Doesn't say anything. Just kinda hovers near the door.
Yeah, nah. As soon as someone starts hovering, I'm clocking out.
Right? So I say, "Can I help you?" And he just stares at me. Not threatening, just blank. Then he turns and walks down one of the aisles, out of view from the counter. So I'm watching the monitor, but the camera feed glitches just for a second, and when it comes back, he's gone. Nowhere in the store. I get up, do a lap thinking maybe he ducked into the restroom, but the restroom door's open, and it's empty. I check outside. Nothing. Just gone. I go back inside, lock the door, and check the camera footage again. This time I rewind it, and I swear to you, there's this 5-second gap where the screen goes all static, right when he walks into that aisle.
No, sir. Nope. You saw a glitch in the simulation.
That's how it felt, man. I ended my shift early that night, didn't even cash out the drawer. I just left a note for my boss and dipped.
Dude probably didn't want snacks. He wanted your soul.
If he did, he could have at least bought a Slim Jim first.
You know what? Since we're in overtime, I'm gonna toss in a quick one myself. Not as intense, but it's one of those things that still bugs me. So I used to work part-time at this appliance repair warehouse back in Texas. Small crew, mostly older dudes who'd been there for years. We had this break room in the back, tiny little spot, flickering light, microwave from the 90s, always smelled like burnt popcorn. Anyway, I'd usually be the last one to leave because I lived close and didn't mind locking up. One night, I'm walking past the break room on my way out, and I see the door is cracked open. Lights on, nothing too weird. But then I hear this knock from inside the vending machine.
Nah, bro, come on. Not the vending machine. What was it trying to do? Get out with the Doritos?
I swear, man, like a single deliberate knock. I froze, waited, nothing. Then the lights in the break room flickered off. I didn't even clock out, just walked straight to my car. Next day, I asked the guys if they ever had weird stuff happen. One of them just looked at me and said, "That vending machine's been here since the building opened in the 70s. Never worked right. Something's in there." And I was like, cool. Guess I'm never eating Cheez-Its again.
That's it. I'm never trusting snacks again. First a raccoon demon under my house, now haunted vending machines.
Welcome to Horror Story Junkie, bro.
You got another story in you, or are we tapped out?
Actually, yeah. This one didn't happen to me, but my boy Dev swears up and down it's true. So Dev was driving back from Tallahassee late one night. He'd been visiting family and left way too late. Around 2 a.m., he's going through this really rural stretch of road, No lights, no cell service, nothing but trees on both sides. That kind of black, where even the high beams don't do much. He's driving and sees what he thinks is a deer up ahead, so he slows down. But it's not a deer, it's a person standing right at the edge of the road. Just standing there in a hospital gown, pale, barefoot.
Nope. I already hate this.
Same. So Dev swerves around them, doesn't stop, smart man. But when he checks his rear view, the person's gone, not walking away, not in the road, just not there. He tells himself he imagined it, keeps driving. 10 minutes later, his tire pressure light comes on. He pulls over, gets out, and finds 3 deep scratches along the side of the car, like claw marks.
Okay, what? Did he tell anyone?
Took it to the shop the next day. Mechanic said it looked like someone dug into the metal with steel tools. There was even some kind of dried red stain near the back fender. Dev sold the car 2 weeks later. Hasn't driven at night since.
Yup. I'd be Ubering forever.
That's the Dev way now, and that's all we got tonight. All right, folks, that's episode 2 of Horror Story Junkie. Nate, you officially ruined my night, and probably a few of our listeners too.
Man, I'm just glad I finally got to tell someone. It's been living in my head ever since.
We've all got one of those, right? That one story you keep to yourself because it's just too weird, too real. And if you're listening and thinking, yeah, I've got one too, well, now's the time. Shoot me a message. You might be on the next episode. Speaking of which, next week we've got a woman who moved into a house that came with a locked door in the basement and no key. What she found when she finally opened it, let's just say she doesn't live there anymore. Don't forget to follow, subscribe, rate us 5 stars if you think we earned it. And as always, stay safe, stay weird, and whatever you do, don't ignore that sound under your house. Huge shout out to Nate for creeping us out with that crawlspace madness. If you've got a story that keeps you up at night, hit me up. Your story might be on the next episode.
And for real, if y'all are listening and thinking, that kind of sounds like something that happened to me, don't be shy. Tell it. You never know how many people it might help feel less crazy.
Facts. Send your story in, we'll read it, cry about it, and maybe make it an episode. Huge shout out again to Nate for hanging with me tonight and sharing his stories. You're officially part of the Junkie crew, man.
Happy to be here, bro. Just maybe not in another crawlspace story.
Fair enough. Until next week.